Hello, how is everyone doing? My name's Kurt. I'm a dad who draws, and this is our Wednesday night portrait class. And if this is your first time here, I just want to give you a warm welcome. I'm glad that you're here. We try and get together every Wednesday night and draw a portrait. You could actually find the information really by joining our Facebook group. And as soon as this video is over, I will put that as a link into the comments below the video. So check that out. And with that, let's jump right into our portrait tonight. So let me kind of walk you through my basic steps when I draw a portrait. You know, I typically will start with a sphere. But one thing that when you see a head in 3/4 view, which we see this in 3/4 view, a lot of times you're going to have one side of the head that's going to be very flat, and that's resulting in 3/4, and then the other side is going to be very round. So we kind of want to use that to help us kind of get our proportions down. So right away, I'm just going to start with this flat side of his head of getting a line down here. And then I'm going to kind of come around with that sphere, just like this. Oops. I'll tell you what, I've got the wrong layer here. So let me, glad I caught that. Let me try that all over again. All right, now we're ready. All right, so there's my flat side. Okay, and there's my half sphere going around the other side. All right, next what I want to do is I want to establish my my brow line. Okay, so my brow line is just going to kind of come right across here, just like this. And then next on the brow line, I want to find the temple, but yet the placement of the temple is very important because you want to hit the temple, but then you also want to hit a mark toward the back of the head. So looking at our picture here, check this out. So there's my brow line, and his temple is going to be right there. So I want to kind of establish a proportion to where I could find the back of his head. So let's do that here. So if I look at this, I'm going to say, okay, right about there. I'll make that a little bigger. Right about there is going to be his temple. All right. Hey, Christina. And let's kind of divide this in half. So I could see this as 1, 2, and a little bit wider than 3. You see how I kind of figured that one out? So this is going to be a good position for the back of his head. Let's see, 1, 2, and a little bit more wider. I think I'm going to be right about there for the back of his head. Okay, so this being the side of his head, we're going to flatten the side of that sphere just like that. Then we want to add that center line. Okay, this center line goes right down the center of his nose. All right, so we got our brow line. Next, we want to establish underneath his nose there. And I'm just kind of looking at this. I'm going to go right about there. We take that distance and we double it. That kind of gives us a good approximation about where his chin is. So we take that and drop that down. And these proportions are all, they're relative. We have to change depending on the person, but we can use them as definitely starting points. Okay. And we've got we've got his center line right in there. Okay, let's jump up to that temple, and think of this as a corner of his head, because then as we go back around the corner, it's almost the head is sometimes very, very square in some ways. We can go back and get the position of the ear just right. And check this out. Usually the ear will measure up with the top of the eyebrow, and the bottom of the lobe will go to the bottom of the mouth, bottom of the nose. So look at this. Here's the nose. Look at that. Look at that alignment. That's great alignment there. So let's look at our picture. We're going to kind of come over here. We're going to come around right away. Get that ear shape in. All right, let's get rid of that. There's a measurement called the Van Dyke Z, the Van Dyke Z. I haven't seen it much, but I came across it, just in this last, maybe year or so. And it's really helped my proportion. Let me show you what it is. All you do is you run a line across that brow line, straight down the nose, and then you get a letter Z. You see that? So using that as a proportional tool, let's come across, and I'm really looking for is this negative space. How big is that negative space? What's the shape of that negative space? And so I'm going to come right down like this. And I can already see that maybe my downward stroke of my nose is too tilted. So I'm going to fix that right now. I'm going to come in here. All right, I think that's a better angle. Okay, let's get our nose in place here. So you can see that the tip of his nose is a little bit higher than the bottom of it. So I'm going to come in here and kind of drop the ball of my nose right there. I'm going to come up here and drop the glabella. And then you could see the little septum that comes underneath, and the septum on this side. Now with that in place, and I would even drop just a little tone on that. And now we can get that nose by hitting that nostril. So there's that nostril on that side. And then the other nostril is just peeking out just a little bit. I'll make my picture a little larger so you can see it better. As I'm doing this, I do have a class called the Daily Draw. And on Wednesdays, we always go into detail with drawing portraits. So I will also set a link up for that also in the comments. You could check that out as well. Okay, here we go. Let's go ahead and keep going. Let's next focus on the ball of the mouth. This is the area of your mouth that is very round. I've got a skull right here to show you. Look Look how round that ball of the mouth is, and it comes right around like that, okay? This gentleman is quite young, so the ball of the mouth doesn't show up so much on young people, but on some old farts like myself, it's quite obvious. All right, let's get his chin in place too. I'm just gonna put a chin right there. And let's jump right into his mouth now. Now, mind you, he's got that real nice mustache going, so let's kind of give room for that mustache. And when we're drawing the mouth, we always want to start with the letter V, right in the dead center. Then we go for the corners. And, you know, I kind of made a slight mistake here. You know, this is a 3/4 view, and so when we're drawing, you always have to be vigilant of paying attention. And I kind of drew my mouth so it's actually perfectly even on both sides. So being a 3/4 view, I need to shift it slightly to where the right side is, we're going to see more of the right side because the left side is foreshortened. Okay, let's go ahead and add some value here. And we won't even draw his lower lip, but what we will do here is we'll hit that little bit of shade underneath there, you see. And I'm going to adjust this chin just a little bit here. Okay. All right, let's move up and get his eye line in. Hello, Mr. Paul. All right, eye line's going to go across like this. Yeah, today, earlier in the daily draw, I went step by step. Gave all my students a checklist of everything they've got to get done when they're drawing a portrait, and it was very helpful to them. Okay, let's go ahead and get these eyes in. So let's start with the tear ducts. We're going to be here, and when I draw the top of my eyes, I go 1, 2, 3. And then we'll put the other one in place. 1, 2, 3. Right eye is going to be a little bit longer because it's not foreshortened. And then we could drop these pupils in. Same thing on this side. And they're flat on the bottom, just ever so slightly. Look at the bottom, the bottom eyelids. You see that little bit of, let me zoom in here and I'll point this out to you here. This is so, look at this little bit of light right in there. You see that? That's the sunlight reflecting off the thickness of the skin there. So we definitely want to make sure that we have that. So let me come in here first and draw a little S curve. Same thing on this side, S curve. And then when you shade this, make sure you leave that sliver. Make sure you leave that sliver of light. And when it comes to drawing the whites of his eye, make sure you add a little bit of value in there. Because typically the whites of the eye always have a little bit of tone. Okay, let's get that upper eyelid. And then the other one as well. And then for his eyelashes, just come in here with a little, just a little thicker line. Okay, so look at this now. I did this today as well. Let me talk about some tools of proportion. So there's 4 tools of proportion I use. I use vertical lines, horizontal lines, I use negative space or negative shape, and the last I use a thing called cartoon check. So let's use cartoon check right now, and I want you to look at your proportion as I look at mine. So cartoon check is you look at the photo, then look at your drawing, and you go back and forth. So what I'm looking for right now is I'm looking for the position of my ear to my eye. So let me look at the picture, jumping back and forth. I'm jumping back and forth with my eyes. And my ear needs to come in much closer. So I'm going to make that adjustment right now. Okay, and then that means I'm going to have to adjust the back of my head just a bit. Okay, I think that's much better. Okay. On the ear, put the letters backwards letter C here. And you're gonna drop down straight just like this for the jaw. And then our jaw is gonna swing right around like this. Let's jump to the other side here. All right, this is called the visor area of the head. We're going to go right down into his cheekbones. You can see this other cheekbone over here. All right, that's going to bring me right into his chin. Oh boy. Look at this. Look at talking about negative shape here. We could use cartoon check. We could use look at the negative shape. How much negative shape is in here? And look at mine over here. Mine is way elongated. I don't know how he did that. But I'm just going to roll with it. It's a little off. See, no one gets it perfect every time. Okay, look at his chin. Look at that tone. Look at that beautiful coarse shadow down here. So let's come in here. Just like this. Nice coarse shadow there. Okay, let's get some of these eyebrows in here. So the start of this eyebrow is right over here. Watch this negative space between the top of the eyelid and the bottom of the eyebrow. And then the other side here. Okay, look at over here by his eye, he's got his ear just popping over just like this, you see? All right, let's get this mustache in. Think of the mustache as a whole, and don't think of it as individual hairs, but think of it as like a mass that you're putting down here. Okay, I'm just kind of darkening in a couple things here. It's probably too dark in there. Okay. All right, let's drop a little bit of value here. Drop some value in the darker crevices of his eyes. This will push it back in space a little bit. There's a little bit of value on the side of his nose. And then let's go ahead and get his hair in place now. I'm going to make my picture a little bit smaller. Okay, hair. Think of hair as just a mass of clay. Don't think of it as individual hair. It's just almost like a solid wig you're putting on. So I'm going to follow along, use a contour line as I make my way. Look at where this, pay attention to, here's this part, where does this vertically, see this is another proportion. Vertically, where does that part line up with? Okay, right on the outside of his eye, all right? Got that. Ooh, I'm really glad I squished my head in there just a bit. All right, I'm going to go ahead and just add an overall tone right now. And just, I forgot to mention that, these portraits that I'm drawing here are pretty small. I mean, this is a, because if you're, this allows me to draw them quickly. So they're only roughly about 3 by 4 in size. So they're pretty small. Okay, now that I've got this hair in place, now I'm going to come back in here one more time. I haven't drawn any like single hairs yet. I'm still just kind of going to shade this as if it was a solid piece of clay. And then once I have that, now I could come in here with some line work. You see? Same thing on the other side. All right, some tone over here, and look at, this is where you gotta start to really look for these details. Look at this, you see this section here? This little area here, this is that muscle that controls so much of those eyebrows. Now let me remove that, and you could see the change in value. You see that? So let's put some of that in here. And you get the side of his face a little bit. Excuse me. Okay. Drop some value on this back ear here. Overall value. Then I go in with a secondary darker value. All right, let's go ahead and get his neck in. Where does his neck on his right side here? It starts right there. Where's the neck on the back side? All the way up there behind the ear there. You see that? The thing with drawing portraits is it just takes time to really get the hang of it. And I'm talking many years. All these excuse me. I think many seasoned artists give beginners a lot of false hope, thinking they could pull this off really quickly. But it just takes time. So don't give up. Don't give up on yourself. Okay, let's come around here now, and there it goes, this tie. Oh, excuse me. All right, I think we're gonna end it with that because I need to get some water. Christina says, "Oh, yours is really bad." Oh my. Well, put it in our Facebook group so I can take a look at it. Okay. Thanks for watching, everyone. My name is Kurt. I'm a dad who draws. Oh, I got to get a drink of water. Go out there. Make your day great.